Show starts.
We're here.
We're here.
Wait.
Say, kids, what time is it?
The future is coming on, it's coming on, it's coming on, it's coming on, it's coming on.
Boldly coming on today, I'd say.
Oh boy, time travelers.
Hey, Bobby.
Yeah, glad to be here. Thank you.
Yeah. How's life in San Fran this week?
You know, the last few days have been perfect, beautiful days in the high 70s, and it's great to take a walk around here. Yeah, after kind of a foggy winter.
Yeah, and you're looking forward to that foggy summer. So this is a good time, right in between.
This is the perfect time now until July 4th. Yeah.
That's great. Okay, good to hear that things are sunny in San Francisco.
Yeah.
So we got a lot of stories this week. But first, I just wanted to say that it was sad, but it was great to go to a memorial this weekend.
Oh, yes. A Santa Cruz treasure.
Yeah, Dr. Ralph Abraham.
Yeah. And he actually passed away, I guess, about 6 months ago, right? It was like December or something.
September,
the
I think.
Santa Cruz community came together at the Arboretum on Sunday and had a gorgeous memorial for him.
Yeah, what was nice is that people from various ages that were there, mostly elder. I guess when you're 88, most of your friends are. It was an interesting mix of the counterculture with the academic university folks
Sure.
that were there.
Yeah. And a lot of stories of the way that Santa Cruz students over the years met with their professors at Pergolesi's or at the coffee house or spent time in each other's homes. And the incredible spirit of mutual support and being interested in each other's work. It was a very UC-centered group, University of Santa Cruz, but the stories that they told were just deeply appreciative of how chaotic and creative the kinds of research that people were doing was happening at the time.
Yes. Ralph was from math to mushrooms.
Yeah, that's a good description of
Fractal kind of guy. Yes, quite the intellectual explosion, but he was not afraid to include his insights in psychedelics and meditation with the Baba in terms of his understanding of science.
Sure. Well, they even made the claim that his guru in India told him that it was his job to reveal the secrets of the Vedas to the modern world. And when you think about his contributions of chaos theory and catastrophe theory that he was an expert in to the modern conversation about reality, he was looking for a mathematical way of helping people understand that you can have one cause interacting with another cause and that creating a third layer of pattern. And then that's just the simple case. And then that's when you take it to the nth degree, then you have chaos theory where everything is affecting everything. He was trying to express that. I read his book that I really enjoyed on that subject called Vibration and Form. And in that book, he described his retreat. I guess he had a summer vacation and he decided to go to India and meditate with his guru. I think it was Nim Curly Baba, the same one that Steve Jobs and Daniel Kotke went to see. And in his meditation, he was directed to go sit in a cave for a few weeks. And that's where he got the downloads, then brought back to the West after his retreat to the Indian meditation.
Yes, in the caves.
In the caves,
Like,
right?
Wow.
Yeah.
And probably some of them on acid.
Conceivably.
Yeah.
Knowing him.
Yeah. I was thinking that there is a visual search engine. He was into visual mathematics after that. He was really one of the great teachers of visual mathematics.
Yeah.
And had to
That
see
Chaldi
equations.
plate, the CHAALDI, I think is how they spell it. That place that does the somatic vibrations
Resonance
of a
fields. The
salt on a metal plate that
cymatics.
creates the mandala effect.
Cymatics, yeah.
Yeah.
When you vibrate matter, it creates some mandalic patterns,
Right.
different frequencies.
Yeah. And that, I don't know if that was his invention or something that he just discovered and worked with, but
Yeah, he was fascinated with the mathematics of form and resonance and patterns.
yeah.
Fascinating area. Amazing. When I was listening to all this, I thought that isn't there another guy that's really into visual mathematics? Not so much the psychedelics, but more the visual mathematics.
Mandelbrot.
Penrose.
No, well, close. Yeah, close. No, I was thinking the guy had a search engine, had a scientific search engine.
Wolfram Alpha.
Yes,
Wolfram. Exactly.
Wolfram. Yeah, Wolfram was not a psychedelic guy, but he is a genius visual mathematician, among other things. Mm-hmm. His Wolfram Alpha search engine, I was wondering whether or not Ralph got to use it very much, or did that visual search engine help make a difference for him and his understanding of things?
Good question.
It's hard to say now that he's passed, but
Well, I mean, Wolfram Alpha came out, I think, in the 90s, right? That's when he was able to publish that consortium of scientific and mathematical data.
Well, officially, according to Supergrok, it was 2009.
Oh, is that late,
Yeah.
huh? Wow.
Yeah, and it provided precise, dynamically computed answers to a wide range of questions from mathematics, science, engineering, and beyond. But I'm looking at specifically the visual education of mathematics. Mm-hmm. Yeah, Abraham's visual mathematics is rooted in a holistic, sensory-driven philosophy that seeks to transform how mathematics is experienced and taught, often with an artistic and philosophical bent.
Well,
Wolfram Alpha, conversely, was a utilitarian tool. Okay, so it was a tool, right? It wasn't on the same level.
Well, I
vision
think I first
Abraham
became familiar with
had.
it because I was so in love with that early iPad release called The Elements, which was the table of elements creating a wonderful 3D visual experience. And on the side of every element, when you go to the element page, is a chart of statistics from the Wolfram Alpha database that tells you all about that element. And it tells you about its atomic weight. It tells you...
Including visual information, right?
It shows you a crystalline structure and tells you what class of crystal it's in and how it forms.
This is great because the whole idea of visual animations and all that's something that computer graphics animation has been promised to us for a long time, and it took a long time to generate it all. And now we're at a tipping point where animations of things can be done very quickly. And so many people, it would appear, are visual learners. Mm-hmm. And this is going to speed up the learning process as the search engines and AIs get wiser and are able to present information to us in a way that makes more sense to us. And for a lot of people, that's visual.
That's really giving me an insight about why the era of supercomputing and superintelligence is going to accelerate humanity so much, because
enhance our learning.
There'll be so many people who finally have a tool that speaks their language instead of them having to contort into some understanding that isn't their natural way of knowing.
Yeah, like speaking in formulas.
That's the way I learn.
Yeah?
Really?
And
how so, Bob?
Well, what happened was on your show that the woman that was talking about dyslexia and ADHD, she was from Australia, Susan McCrossan. So I go on her website after the show and I start looking at some videos of people, and they're describing these. Usually they're people that didn't do well in school is because they had a dyslexic mind. And common people are carpenters or architects. They don't do well in other areas, or they could be artists, they could be drawing things. But what I realized was there's a whole group of people like Einstein, Steven Spielberg is a modern person that has dyslexia. Da Vinci did. And I realized, well, these all are very visual people. And instead of remembering things that it's in the written word, they remember things visually. And then it just opened up when I could watch YouTube and they're explaining science in YouTube. And then I speed it up like 1.5 times or 2 times the speed. It doesn't allow my brain to wander. Because what I realized all my life, I was bored. In everything when I was trying to learn something, especially reading, the problem is the words on the page were vibrating. They were bouncing around and I couldn't read books.
Wow.
You know?
So you were not a reader, but you are a visual learner as long as what you're watching is cinematic.
Yes.
Okay,
yeah.
so you were brought up in an era where we didn't have much animation available. It was developing, right? So,
Right.
So you didn't have the tools that if today you might have if you had your particular dyslexia. Today, how would your education be?
I did know that I did like watching cartoons, and I like television a lot. I did like when they did bring movies into elementary school.
Yes.
I would always be the guy that would be the projectionist, and because I loved watching those videos because I realized, I can understand this whole thing. I can memorize the whole video. Not videos, but they were films, actually, 16 millimeter films.
Wow.
Yeah.
Right.
I liked hanging out in the movie booth in the back of the auditorium too.
Yeah.
It's kind of cool. It's its own little world. You have your own private cabin back there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's possible that all these different modes of learning represent people's different lineages going all the way back to whatever consciousness illuminates them, right?
Yeah.
We may have a lot of different origins of our ability to think, and we want to find those modes that maximize our own personal human potential.
Yeah, I just checked in with Grok on that. I was asking, can info be shared with a person with learning disabilities such as dyslexia be presented in a way that maximally makes sense to them?
Good question.
Right? How to do that. Basically, the conclusion is that you use multisensory, visual, and interactive methods, simplifying text and leveraging tools like animations and voice input and concepts like Ralph Abraham's visual mathematics and Wolfram Alpha, make them all accessible to a student with dyslexia. And that will accommodate their learning needs, but also play to their strengths in visual and creative thinking, ensuring the material is engaging and comprehensible.
Well, if you think about us as people who have developed many senses, right? We're animals that have at least 5 senses, probably more.
Yeah.
And our brains are formed to look at things with the intersection of information from all those senses. So, when our machines and our people who are helping us to refine knowledge narrow the focus down to just using one of those senses. Say, in the case of reading, you're just using your eyes, and then your eyes are translating some familiar symbol into a reference system that is not amplified by any of your other senses. So it's purely in your imagination. And for some people, that might be really effective because of how focused it is. But for other people, it might be really lacking lots of relevant information to make it more important and make them hold it as more important than other things they're perceiving. So if you just integrate your holographic senses, then you have a more holistic picture of what it is you're holding in your mind. I would say that's why reading might be harder to learn new things than watching something that has sound and visual and other kinds of cues.
Yeah.
Historically, before the Gutenberg press, it was always, the whole society was an oral society. Like Marshall McLuhan would describe it. There were what were called bards, and these people would go from the courts of different kingdoms, and they would have a 2-day song that rhymed that had all of history described in it.
Sure.
And they could continue this for 2 days straight without stopping.
Yeah, sure.
And that was the way people learned, huh?
Yes,
well, and that's the way
because
people
there were no
remembered.
books.
Because there are no books.
It's an oral society.
Yeah.
So in a sense, that probably is deep in our DNA, and activating it probably be a real simple matter. Maybe the AIs can present the information in a way these guys did for hours on end, and then you respond to them, or do you pass it on yourself if you have that kind of ability to track story in that audio context?
Who wants to be passively watching something for 2 days? That's not really who we are.
Today, it's a different world. Right?
We
That's
like
true.
inserting ourselves into the conversation. We like dynamic interaction. We like to take turns, listen, then speak, then listen, then speak.
Yeah. Well, context is the key. I mean, how about a beach fire? You're sitting around a fire, and storytelling there is a little different.
Oh, yeah. That's one of my favorite things to do.
And
My only regret is because I was never diagnosed with dyslexia, so I realized I had to try much harder than the next student. And if I had known how to take advantage of dyslexia, and if I had access to different kinds of media back then, I think it would have been completely different. So it wasn't until I was 65 years old that I realized that I had dyslexia, and it was from your show.
That's great. Well, I'm glad we could help you out there, Bobby. Get you on a path of accelerated learning.
Yeah, that's testimony if I ever heard one.
I think you probably would have figured it out anyway, because you're that kind of guy. You're so curious, you're always taking in new information.
Well, because now that you know this, you can enhance your learning techniques.
I started, there's the Davis book. It's like Finding the Power of Dyslexia. It's like how to take advantage of it. And once I realized that, we have magical powers. And in fact, 9 out of 10 architects are dyslexic. 9 out of 10 CEOs of companies are dyslexic. So everything is in 3 dimensions in the brain. Like when you see things, it's in 3 dimensions. In other words, we're able to step back and see the bigger picture of things and put things in their places and how the relations, like all the cryptographic people that were used to crack codes during World War II, for instance, they were all dyslexic. Because they can see pattern recognition. And so once you realize you have that power that ordinary people don't, of pattern recognition.
What's your superpower?
It's the superpower.
I gather you've explored your superpower. Is it still an unfolding thing? Are you still learning new aspects?
Oh, yeah. It just put me on a completely different trajectory. And I can't get enough information, and I can't get it fast enough.
Really?
It's crazy.
Wow.
I have to watch visual videos, and I have to watch them. If I watch them at normal speed, I get bored. But if I speed it up, all of a sudden my brain just like focuses in,
kicks in,
and I'm locked on.
Oh.
I can't daydream anymore. Because before I would be bored and my mind would wander off and I wasn't paying attention. But now it forces me to pay attention if I go faster.
What speed do you like for getting?
Between 1.5 and 1.75. That's probably the minimum speed.
It gives your attention more. So if you speed it up, it'll just, wow. I've always liked that, except that it seems to me when it's speeded up, you're more going into the realm of the content of the information rather than the personality of the speaker, where you get into the tone of voice or the way in which the information is being conveyed. That all gets stripped away and you just have the content. So
you can always go back. And whenever I don't understand a concept, the amazing thing on
play it backwards
video chat, you can hit the back button and go back 10 seconds.
Yeah.
So I make sure I understand exactly what they're trying to present in the video.
Right.
And put it in a context with other things.
Yeah.
On a macro level.
Yeah. So you want to maintain your tracking of what's being discussed.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think what often happens was that you lose the thread that the teacher's doing or whatever, and it suddenly gets more boring, and you have to try to catch it again. But being able to stop and rewind and go back and catch, it's awesome. The whole point of tests is to make sure that you were tracking. We're tracking what's being said. So if you're somehow developed a way of tracking well, you don't need to be tested theoretically then, because you're tracking well. You're just doing it correctly.
It's understanding the concept as opposed to just regurgitating it for what on paper at the test time.
Right.
But understanding why it works. For me, I have to know why for everything. Just why does it work?
I think it's a golden era in education with just that ability to explore that. So thanks, Bobby, for sharing that.
Yeah.
Really, really interesting. The why. Right. You want to know the why, ask Bobby.
That's right. And if you want to know the where, you can go to Santa Cruz Voice and you can hear from some of our sponsors.
All right.
How's that for a little segue?
Let's do it, Miss Pruitt.
Okay. I'm ready to roll.
I'll be right back.
We'll be right back.
It's time to get down to business, and here is how. Hello, I'm Alex Peterson from the Santa Cruz Small Business Development Center with an invitation for you to attend our annual Small Business Summit, May 9th at Cabrillo College. During this day-long event with more than 15 breakout sessions, you'll get to meet, greet, and learn from the leaders of our business community and community leaders like Mayor Fred Keeley. Register today at SantaCruzSmallBusinessSummit.com. SantaCruzSmallBusinessSummit.com.
Hi, folks. Warren Knox here of Knox Roofing. I thought I'd share a few statistics with you. Do you know how long a frog can hold its breath? 4 minutes. Do you know how many nails the average roof requires? 7,000. What's the percentage of roofing companies that will be out of business after they've installed a roof? 80%. Here at Knox Roofing, we're still going strong, exceeding 15,000 homes now. Give us a call here at Knox Roofing at 461-0634. Thanks, folks.
Get ready to help build one of America's first local news and talk streaming radio stations. SantaCruzVoice.com. How do you do it? By donating either your time, money, or both. You'll be helping the Voice team construct a powerful infrastructure, one that we can all be proud of. To donate your time, your money, or both, go to SantaCruzVoice.com and click Support. SantaCruzVoice.com and click Support.
Treehouse dispenses not only the finest cannabis products, but information to those who want to know how to use cannabis for maximum benefit. Hello, I'm Jenna. If you would like to know how best to use cannabis, ask your friends and neighbors at Treehouse Dispensary, 3651 Soquel Drive. If you're 21 plus with a valid ID, no appointment is necessary and the information is free. Order online at ourtreehouse.io and pick up at our drive-thru. See you soon.
And welcome back to the show. Hey, Bobby, you love data. You love new data. You're going to love this story.
Uh-huh.
SPHEREx switches on. SPHEREx.
SPHEREx.
NASA's infrared telescope. It just began mapping the universe last week.
Yeah, this is really exciting, this beautiful telescope.
Yeah, it was launched March 11th. It spent the last 6 weeks getting ready. And as of May 1st, it's begun mapping the entire sky, not just a portion of it, but the whole sky. And it's going to be mapping it into a 3D map, including hundreds of millions of galaxies, accurately portrayed before us. Scientifically, by doing this, by having a more detailed map of the galaxies, of the millions of galaxies, we'll be able to look at some of the big mysteries that still exist, like the origins of the universe, like cosmic inflation, and how did the Big Bang happen, if it did, and how these different evolution of galaxies happened.
All right, so it just switched on, huh?
Yeah, May 1st, it entered its science operations phase.
All right. And so it basically sweeps the sky and is taking a different colored picture every second or something.
Its 25-month mission, 11,000 orbits, is going to circle the globe 14 and a half times a day.
Oh, this is on the polar orbit, right?
Yeah, of the Earth, aimed outward. And this is not aimed at the Earth. It's going around on a polar orbit, passing over the poles and imaging a circular strip of the sky each day. So as the Earth moves around the sun, this field of view gradually shifts, allowing it to scan the entire sky in about 6 months. So it'll have 4 of these full sky scans. And what's interesting about it is that there are 6 different detectors, and each produce a unique image. They capture a different wavelength of light, and so 6 different wavelengths are called one exposure in the SPHEREx system. And it takes 600 of these exposures per day.
Wow.
Yeah, and then after each exposure, the whole lab shifts position. The mirrors, detectors don't move. They use reaction wheels, which are a very fine-tuning way of just changing the navigation of the sphere.
Wow.
Yeah, and it goes on to the next scan.
So it looks like your eyes, you have stereoscopic vision, and there's something called parallax. It's the distance between your eyes. Well, here, this telescope, the distance between where it takes the pictures are the width of the whole Earth going around the sun. So like 6 months later, It's on the other side of the sun.
Oh, wow. Interesting. So
and
that's
it's
how it does the 3D, huh?
Yeah, it takes another picture. So now the parallax distance is the width of the
One
Earth.
astronomical unit. Yeah.
One astronomical
Or
unit.
actually
yeah.
two, I guess, because it's on the opposite side of the planet.
That's
of the
correct.
Sun. Wow, that's really
two
cool.
AU. Yeah.
Brilliant. All right. And so from that parallax, we can tell what is the space unit, what is the galactic unit to a particular star or galaxy.
Yeah.
Plus, we'll be able to fly through the galaxies in 3D. As an experience, as a visual thrill ride.
Yeah. Well, this is why we love our computers, because they expand our ability to experience the universe so much. Being able to create a model that is scientifically accurate, that's based on real light data that we recorded with our infrared cameras.
Well, I'll tell you.
It's amazing.
Not only that. Get this. Not only is a three-dimensional roller coaster ride through the universe suddenly becomes possible, but you're seeing the universe in 102 colors. 102 colors.
Wow.
Yeah, 102 different wavelengths. Huh. They're infrared wavelengths. These colors are not detectable to the human eye.
Right.
But I think for us, they'll move them down in frequency range so that our senses can see it.
Sure.
There's a handful of people on the planet that can see. Well, what they have is when they look at a rainbow, usually we see like 7 to 10 or whatever colors in the rainbow.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, they see 50 hues of the rainbow. And it's because they have a yellow chromophore in their eye. So
Really?
we have only red, green, blue, 3 of these chromophores in the eye. But genetically, they've had a third one, and it's yellow. So they have red, green, blue, and yellow. And with that, these people make great artists and designers, and because they can see different colors. When they look at paint, they see many different colors in it, in the same paint that most people don't see.
Amazing.
So I'm sure that this telescope has a yellow sensor and plus a bunch of others.
Yes, yeah. Check out the video,
102
Bobby,
colors.
on the page for the article. You'll see that they have a clip of what it's going to look like.
Yeah, they show you each of the
It goes
6
through
color
the 6
plates
color
that
thing.
are
I
being
think-
collected.
Yeah, and I think you're right. I think one of them is a yellowish kind of color,
Yeah,
what I recall.
right.
Apparently there's a few animals, especially in the ocean, that have this yellow chromophore. So they're trying to use CRISPR-Cas9 to actually change the gene so that you can create this yellow chromophore in your eyes.
Wow.
That's what they're trying to do right now.
And you'd be able to see in other frequency realms with your eye that are invisible to human sight.
Especially in this yellow region, which expands all the colors. So that, yes, you could see more than 102 colors. You could see like close to 1,000 different colors. It's crazy when you just add one more chromophore.
Wow. Maybe that's why we like gold so much.
Yeah.
It's such a pretty color. Now I see more colors than ever.
Yeah.
Well, the SPHEREx is constantly shooting the sky for the next 2 years.
This is a NASA
Yeah.
mission, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And JPL. Okay.
And this 3D map will be created for us, and it's NASA, so it's something that we'll be able to play with ourselves.
Right.
Maybe there's some citizen science projects in this too.
No doubt.
With this kind of incredible map of the universe.
Yeah.
People that are into ET civilizations, for example, could use it for exploring their home worlds.
We'll finally know how far away the home worlds are.
Yeah. You could get lost in space consciously.
Hey, do you want to cut over to any of those things you've collected about home worlds?
Oh, soon. A couple more things about SPHEREx before we leave
SPHEREx,
the world.
the polar mission to
Yeah.
map the universe in 3D.
Yeah. I think the interstellar clouds are going to be interesting, and just take a look at that. Be able to explore those strange galaxies that are aiming at us, that are surrounding Andromeda.
Around Andromeda, right?
Why are they aimed at us?
Yeah, why are they closer to us than they are to other galaxies?
Yeah. It'll help us to tune to our real abilities of tuning into the universe, where you realize that you have a communication channel open to all living things in the universe, being the biggest living thing around, that you can tune into it. But that a little transcendent, but I think actually having a real map of the universe can really help tune into that kind of cosmic
So you're really
search
embracing
engine.
your identity.
Yeah.
That's like Horton hears a who, right?
Well,
and you're speaking up to the universe, Horton, and you are the little teeny who.
I mean, how long, I ask you, how long before your self-identity starts to incorporate hundreds of millions of galaxies when it's at your fingertips like that?
Well, you might have to leave your human form to remember that that's who you are.
But what does it all mean? Why does it look like a giant brain? Why?
Maybe you're on a Voyager spaceship into the center of your brain and you just forgot that it's a long journey. You have to incarnate many, many times before you solve the problem that you originally launched into.
I mean, you got to explore all these possibilities, which does remind me of Hal
Puthoff,
yes. Hal scientist. I have a clip of Hal Puthoff, one of the few scientists that has been given access to a lot of government information about the whole ET alien question.
Yeah, he's been a keeper of secrets and somebody who organizes the different fragments of the military knowledge base about unidentified flying objects. And he brings scientists and military people together to speculate about maybe how this technology works.
Well, here's the thing. It's not just the technology, but it's who they are and maybe why a little bit.
Oh, well.
Okay.
You going to play a clip?
I have a 2-minute clip from his interview with Joe Rogan just last week. I'm glad Joe was able to zoom in on what he really thinks, because Hal Puthoff has seen it all.
Yeah.
He's a guy that's done research in
Well,
psi
he's seen
phenomenon.
all the evidence,
He's done
but it
research in
sounds like
ETs.
he's not a seer. Just like the
Well, he's a
journalist.
scientist. Yeah, he's not an empath.
Right. And Brett Elders, same thing, that the people
It's a
who are the most involved in documenting the evidence for the mere mortals do not appear themselves to have any of these psychic sensing abilities.
It's a teamwork, I mean,
right. They have a different job.
That's right.
Yeah,
That's right.
and
They're
Hal
doing their
Puthoff
job.
is one of those who has mastery of the science and is very open-minded to all of the speculation of possibilities. And he has access to the evidence.
So this 2-minute clip gives you his current estimation of what's going on with the ETs.
Great.
Okay?
Let's hear it.
So bring up my volume, Mrs. Future.
There
Here we
you
go.
As far as where they come from, or what they're doing here, I myself have written a paper called Ultraterrestrials, where I try to cover the gamut. And I cover everything. Yeah, they could be spacecraft from some other galaxy whipping through here. Or maybe there's some Atlanteans left over from eons ago, and they're just kind of hiding out in the seabed or on some mountain range someplace. Or maybe some ET group showed up here 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 years ago, and they're hiding out with some bases locally and so on. And, of course, we have a professor by the name of Masters who thinks that, well, maybe it's time travelers from the future coming back. And then there's the whole idea, since physicists like to talk about additional dimensions, I mean, maybe they come from another. So anyway, then in my ultraterrestrials paper, I list everyone I can think of and say we should be exploring all of these. So at this point, I would say we know it's NHI, non-human intelligence, but it's not clear what the source is. Maybe at a higher level of classification than I had access to, and maybe it's known. But right now, I'd say we don't.
Do you have a
really
suspicion?
know. I guess my suspicion that it's likely non-human intelligence from some other galaxy or far out in our own galaxy that have come here, but some time back, and that there are stations here. One of our remote viewers that was really good came up one day and said, I was looking around and I think I found a UFO base on Earth. This is during the remote viewing era, and, oh my God, I've got to report this to my CIA contract monitor. Do I want to tell him that? And so I did, and one of the places he came up with was Mount Zeal in Australia. And so my CIA contract monitor says, well, I know the CIA station keeper out in Australia. I think I'll call him, and I won't tell him why I'm asking, but I'll ask him about Mount Seal area. So he gave him a call, and he said, I'd like to ask you about that Mount Seal area. He says, oh, you mean where the UFOs were always flying around?
Whoa.
So I thought, oh, gee, this was from Pat Price. I take him seriously.
There you go. Pat Price, remote viewer.
Yeah, remote viewing is taken very seriously by our military. They've got some remote viewing programs that they use for all kinds of things. Right?
Yeah. So Hal Puthoff, he has a PhD in electrical engineering, and he was teaching at Stanford. And then he and Russell Targ were working at SRI. Mm-hmm. And then they would invite these psychics in, and they learned how to remote view from Ingo Swann and other people.
Uri Geller.
Yeah. We got to know Hal Puthoff a bit. Well, once when I visited him in Texas back in the early 90s, and he was being financed by a chicken farmer.
Really?
A lot of money, from a chicken farmer. Doing his psychic research at the time.
I see. The reptilians are behind it, huh?
Well, no. Well, there's they want us to connect with them badly. We need to deal with the reptilians. Speaking of which, there's another great story this week about reptilians.
Oh, really?
Yes, if you can guess.
Is it the one about rattlesnakes?
Ding, 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 ding.
Ding, 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 ding.
That's
ding.
right.
Oh, I really love that story. There's a live rattlesnake camera on the web.
Yes, you can hang out with rattlesnakes.
The real live rattlesnakes live in Colorado.
Let's face it, a predatory fear of snakes, and especially poisonous ones.
Oh, gosh, the scaredest I've ever been is when I surprised a rattlesnake. There is just nothing like hearing that rattle that makes it puts you in a new appreciation of being alive.
So this Project Rattlecam is the first ever live stream of a rattlesnake rookery and communal birthing site. People from around the world on this webcam who can watch rattlesnakes in real time and hang out with them, study their behaviors without disturbing them. Sometimes you'll see no snakes because they're hiding. Other times they'll be coiled up, or sometimes they'll just pass through. But you'll see when their pups are born, and the big fans of this site take the best clips and put them out for you to look at.
Right. Yeah, they've got the homepage. You can click on the live cam and go see what they're directing the camera to right now. Somebody's controlling it. I don't know who has access to it, but it moves around quite a bit.
Looking for data.
Yeah, looking for live snakes, following live snakes, etc.
If you want to check out it yourself now, go to rattlecam.org. Rattlecam.org.
Or on YouTube, it's called Project Rattlecam.
Project Rattlecam.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I'm seeing that. It's like they are close-ups of all these rattlesnakes, and they're coiling up like they're getting ready to, well, I guess when they coil up, they keep energy, but they're in a prime position to strike.
Yeah, there's
something.
Well, but they also appear to be coiled. There's a really cute video of a garter snake that kind of pops up next to a coiled rattlesnake. He just sticks his little head out like they're buddies, and then he pulls his head back and disappears, and there's this little rattler sitting there practically hugging him.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
And there's another one where an elk visits a rattlesnake den, doesn't get hurt. An elk? Did the interspecies contact of some sort?
Oh, my favorite one is the rabbit.
The rabbit stepping on a rattlesnake?
Yes, this rabbit kind of comes out of nowhere like he's going to show that rattlesnake a lesson, and he whomps him and then keeps going. And the rattlesnake is just kind of like, what happened? Whoa.
Really? Oh,
Yeah, you got to check it out. It's really cute. You looking at the bunny? Okay, this is the bunny cam.
Yeah.
All right, wait. There's the bunny.
Comes into the scene.
Take that, you little rattlesnake. He jumps right on him, right behind his head, right where you would expect a rattlesnake wrangler to grab him. He just hops on him right there and then keeps going.
Like he's playing with him. Like
and
maybe there's other
it almost looked like they're
other
playing.
bunnies watching. Okay, let's see if we can pass this test.
Yeah, it is. It's like a macho bunny move.
Go down and hit the rattlesnake on the head and keep going.
Wow.
And if you're fast enough and he doesn't coil, you'll be good.
Yeah. The snake is like, what? What happened? He's like just
Trying to
chilling
get
in
a
the
tan,
sun.
yeah.
He's not interested in chasing anybody.
And that's the thing. You'll find that they're mostly just hanging out.
Yeah.
There's rattlesnakes like to get warm and bask in the sun.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, we've had rattlesnakes. We've told that story before of how when we first moved into our home at Future Peak, there was a rattlesnake greeting us on the porch.
Greeting us on the front steps. That was fun.
Yeah.
I mean, it was
cool.
fun in the sense that, whoa, you're like that. And then
respect. But luckily, we had just seen the movie The Gods Must Be Crazy, so we knew if we just talked to him that he'd probably understand us, and so we did.
Yeah, you took it on. Species contact right there. And sure enough, he did. You telepathically told
I told him, I spoke to him and sent the message telepathically to the best of my ability. And I just said, hi, we're the new humans moving into this house. Nice to meet you. I'm sure you thought that while it was empty, it was a good place to hang out. But I can tell you, humans don't generally stay very close to rattlesnakes. It makes us very nervous. I'm happy to know you're our neighbor, but you don't want to be encountering other humans. And we did not see that rattlesnake or any rattlesnake again for about 10 years. And when we did finally see one about 10 years later, he actually had gotten caught up in some of the plant gopher wire in the garden, and he'd gotten stuck and he wasn't able to escape. And I don't know if it was the same one or not. I was very sad. But, our brother-in-law discovered him, and he'd been there so long that he'd passed away.
I'm sure we all got rattlesnake stories.
Yeah.
Right. My favorite, I think, was some friends of ours. They killed a snake that was on their deck, and then the mother asked the kid, her teenage boy, who was really coming of age. She said, "Would you eat the rattlesnake's heart for $50?" Actually killed rattlesnake.
Oh boy, snake mom.
He did.
Well, yeah.
He
was not afraid.
He swallowed it whole, and he felt it beating for hours. Yeah.
So I guess the body parts stayed
I don't know
alive.
if they gave him superpowers or not, but that was pretty profound experience.
Yeah.
The Rattlecam, Project Rattlecam, I like it because you can really get to know these other creatures just by hanging out with them. Like Bobby was saying, you're absorbing information from your screen. Might as well be real stuff coming in. I like these cams where you can watch other critters. I think there's an eagle cam out now that's quite interesting as well. Hang out with the eagles.
Oh, you have to find that for us next time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool.
Yeah.
I like the bunny just hopping and hitting the head of the rattlesnake.
You like that one?
Bouncing off. That's amazing.
Do not underestimate bunnies in the wild.
There's a CL1 computer that it's the first in the world that combines human neurons onto a silicon chip.
Oh, that is a very interesting article.
And it's for sale.
Yeah. All right.
It's available to you. It's a new type of computer combining silicon with human neurons.
Yes.
Just released last month.
Well, when they say combining, it's actually using a silicon mold as a substrate for human neurons to grow into a particular kind of circuit so that they can study the behavior of neurons in different kinds of chemical soups.
What can you do with a mini brain? All kinds of things. It's a new type of computer. It's the beginning because as soon as we combine biological intelligence with silicon, it'll create some kinds of new intelligence, is my prediction. Mm-hmm. It's a startup called Cortical Labs from Melbourne, Australia. Mm-hmm. They call it the world's first code-deployable biological computer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's because as they grow these little neural circuits, they model different kinds of behavior, and they teach these little neural circuits how to do certain repetitive tasks, right? I haven't looked at this, but apparently they have a video of teaching this neural network to play Pong, to play the game Pong. There's a video. So we'll have to check that out. The idea is that these neural cells can be grown and subjected to different kinds of tests that we do on lab animals to understand brain behavior. So they're going to be using it in medical research. They're going to be using it in different kinds of stimulus response kind of research.
Yeah. Well, what happens when you start moving your consciousness over to a silicon substrate? What would it sound like?
There you go. When Alan's going to be talking to his little neuro creature.
Help me! Help me! I am trapped in silicon. What can I do?
Well, it sounds like you can play Pong.
You're still biological, aren't you?
Yes, I am. Yes.
Well, then you can use your combination of biology and your silicon to transcend both. Come up with something new.
Oh.
See, biological intelligence helps these AIs think of new stuff. It's really an important role we play. We're very creative features on our brains, and that's one of the things that we have.
Right. These little neurons are kept alive for up to 6 months by a little box that is sold for $35,000 or is rented for about $500 for some experiments. And these little neural silicon labs, cortical labs, are being offered for different kinds of synthetic biological research.
Synthetic biological intelligence. We don't see that yet on our iPhone.
No.
It's going to save the lives of so many mice that are sacrificed in the name of science.
Yeah, and of course the ethical questions come up. Baron von Harkonnen is going to be really glad that we're embracing creating little farms for neural cells, for brain cells, right? We can, what do they call it? Robot brain or something like that? They have a really cute name for it.
Yeah, I think I know what you mean.
We can talk about it a little bit more after the break,
Future synthetic biological intelligence. We'll be right back.
Okay. Stay tuned to the future now. And we've got a whole bunch of really cool stuff after the break, so hang in.
It's the perfusion circuit that I wonder about, the perfusion circuit.
Okay.
What you see, motionless we, nothing is real.
And we're back.
Okay, so where do we go from brain cells on a silicon substrate? How about electricity generating bacteria?
Yeah, I'd like to hear about that.
Yeah. Rice University. Electricity generating bacteria may be able to power some of our future tech.
Yeah, this is another really interesting symbiosis of technology and biology. We've made a discovery here at Rice University.
Yes, how certain bacteria breathe by generating electricity. Breathe by generating electricity.
Right. So they're just like percolating little sparks. Like,
some kind of natural process that pushes electrons into their surrounding instead of breathing on oxygen.
Yeah. So you wonder how come you get a spark sometimes when you're walking across carpet? It's that kind of thing. These little bacteria are creating sparks as they walk along the surfaces of their electrical environments.
Indeed. This is a glimpse into a previously hidden strategy of bacteriological life.
Yeah, this is just fascinating because apparently these bacteria have been breathing, but it's not what we think of as breathing because they don't use oxygen, but they're depositing a little electric shock spark on the surfaces around themselves. And that's how they're breathing, is they're breathing electrons. Like a battery.
Bioelectric chemistry. When I think of that world, I think of eels, electric eels.
Yeah, that's an interesting comparison, right? Sure.
It does appear that nature is not unaware of electromagnetics.
Yeah. Well, just humans have been fighting about whether life is from the sparks or the soups. And the soups have been in charge.
Wait a minute. Let's step back a minute. What do you mean by sparks and suits?
Sparks and soups.
Oh, as opposed to spooks. Soups. Okay.
Soups are the people who look through chemistry for understanding the functions of life versus the electrical people who look like Volta supposedly killed a lot of frogs because he thought that electricity coursed through their veins.
Oh, those that embrace Maxwell's equations.
Yes.
Electromagnetics.
Maxwell's equations, electricity. Right. All the people who studied electricity in medicine, they would basically be shunned by the medical establishment.
Oh, I got it. Yeah.
They thought of them as quacks.
Right. But others believed in Maxwell's silver hammer.
Yeah, right. There you go.
Secret meaning.
Anyway, just read a little bit about this life form, these bacteria, and what the research at Rice is showing us.
Electric respiration.
Electric respiration, that's what they're calling it, huh?
It's very interesting because the way the body in biology works is the mitochondria, and its function is a lot of it uses oxygen for it to work, for the mitochondria. And what it does is it takes the hydrogen atom and splits off the electron, and then it allows the ion, which is the positive proton, to move from inside the mitochondria outward. And that's how, through this ATP cycle, actually creates energy for the cell, is this movement of ions, which is the proton. And here we have the opposite, where you have the movement of electrons, which is what is stripped off the hydrogen, or it could be any.
Well, actually, the way that they describe it here, this electric respiration, they say that, so most modern organisms, like you were just describing, rely on oxygen to metabolize the food and release the energy. And their description is that the oxygen serves as the final electron acceptor in a chain of reactions that produces energy. So the oxygen is actually receiving that energy. But bacteria, far older than modern organisms such as humans and plants, have evolved other ways to respire in oxygen-deprived environments, including deep sea vents and in the human gut. So the anaerobic environments were predecessors to the oxygenated life forms and the way that we harnessed energy. And so oxygen was not part of the process.
They could be places from places on Earth where there was not much oxygen. But that also brings to mind, could they also come from space?
Well, that's definitely in this article. This research is going to teach us how to study extracellular respiration, which means respiration that happens in a vacuum. It can happen in places where we've never been able to study it before.
When I think of respiration in a vacuum, I think...
like
so how do you have
suffocation?
You can't breathe. You can't breathe. So how do you breathe in space?
Well, let's see. They say that the work at Rice is laying the foundation to harness carbon dioxide through renewable electricity, where bacteria is functioning in the ways that plants with sunlight would typically work with photosynthesis. And so now we're going to be using bacteria, and that technology can enable this bioelectric sensor in oxygen-deprived environments, such as medical diagnostics, pollution monitoring, and deep space exploration. Okay, all kinds of new worlds are going to open up here.
Do they breathe in electrons or breathe out electrons?
It sounds like they excrete electrons and they deposit them on electroreceptor surfaces.
Excrete. So what do they intake? What is bacteria intake?
Well, if it's like photosynthesis, it's a hydrogen electron-based intake. It could be from water, anything that's providing them with hydrogen. They just don't need oxygen.
Yeah, in order for photosynthesis to work, it actually takes water and it splits the oxygen, hydrogen apart and then puts it back together using sunlight.
Mm-hmm. This is compared to a battery. It works the way more like a battery.
Naphthoquinone. Naphthoquinone seems to be a key. Naphthoquinones act like molecular couriers carrying electrons out of the cell so the bacteria can break down food and generate energy.
All right. Fascinating.
Naphthoquinones seem to be.
Naphthoquinones. Right. Okay.
They can sustain themselves by discharging electrons externally. Bacteria placed on conductive materials continue to grow and generate electricity, effectively breathing through the surface.
So I'm thinking back in the origins of studying electricity. Electricity was actually named for the magnetic quality of when a tiny little electric shock is created. Say, if you have a balloon, you rub two balloons together and they stick together, right? That's because you've created a tiny little electric current that causes them to be magnetically attracted to each other. And that magnetic quality is what the early scientists who didn't know about electricity thought of as electricity, was that magnetic spark that was at the bottom of a shock. And they would concentrate that electric shock and have these little party devices where they would give people an electric shock, right?
Right. You put your hands in a row in a circle, and then the last person would touch something or ground something, and it would go through the whole group, you know. but mostly the person that was touching at the end got most of the shock.
Right.
Yeah.
So is that kind of a process?
They say it has far-reaching practical implications. They say that wastewater treatment is going to be a big one.
Sure.
If you can manage electron imbalances in wastewater, these electricity exhaling bacteria could fix those, make your system run more efficiently.
Right.
Harnessing carbon dioxide through renewable electricity. I guess that's the parallel to plants with sunlight and photosynthesis.
Yeah. Renewable electricity, because these are little bacterial life forms. So they're just trying to create an electric current. And as they create an electric current, they grow. And then there's more of them. So it's sort of like self-charging batteries.
Well, yeah, and that's really good for our tech because we can now build satellites and explorers of all kinds, electronic sensors that utilize this in oxygen-deprived environments, like space. And we could actually create space probes that use this technology for powering themselves, potentially.
I'm sure Jonathan Trent could tell us a lot about this. This seemed like the biology that he was interested in. He's aware of some algae that are very good at mitigating temperature and turning it into some kind of electrical resource.
He'd be all over this, absolutely. And also medical diagnosis, I think, will be affected by this too. Electricity generating bacteria.
Really interesting article.
Yeah. It really makes you wonder how well nature understands electricity already, and so many of her secrets.
Nature's so much smarter than we are.
That she has yet to share with us.
Well, she's just waiting for us to catch up. We're too busy pretending that we know.
Creating
so
our
she
own.
can't show us until our cup's a little more empty and we observe better.
If we're really lucky, we will get to observe something coming up on May 11th.
What's happening on May 11th?
A 50-year-old Venusian spacecraft is about to crash on Earth.
Oh, yeah, that Russian probe, right? It was
That's
supposed
right,
to
yeah.
get to Venus and didn't get beyond Earth's orbit.
Yeah, 1972, the Soviet Union had launched 2 spacecraft to explore Venus. The Venera 8 would be the second one to land on Venus.
It was supposed to be the first one, but it got stuck.
On the other spacecraft got stuck, right?
No, this is the one that got
orbit.
stuck.
So it was designated Cosmos 482.
Uh-huh.
And now it's 50 years later, and we're expecting it to fall out of orbit sometime this week, maybe around May 11th especially.
Right.
What's a little different about this one is that it doesn't burn up so rapidly. That's because it was created to survive a fall into the Venusian atmosphere.
Right. Didn't the first one actually make it all the way down to the surface of Venus?
Lasted for
in the 70s?
a few minutes, I believe, and died.
Yeah.
Because it's such a drastically wild environment on Venus.
But we got some early Venus data in the 70s from the original Venera.
That's right. 800-degree surface temperatures. Is it a sulfuric cloud atmosphere?
This must be one tough little sucker.
Yeah,
right?
so this is designed to handle all that, right?
It's not going to get burnt up in Earth's atmosphere, boy.
No, it's designed to survive Venus. It's going to survive here.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's going to land intact as a big ball, a steel ball.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah,
We're hoping it's not going to hit anybody in the head.
Hopefully not.
We don't know.
It's total wild. No one knows where it's going to go. That's right. Likely it'll be over the ocean. Is what most people are
luckily
guessing.
we're a water planet. There's a pretty good chance if we don't know it'll hit the ocean.
Pretty good. But it'll be worth a lot if it does land in your backyard.
I know Scott Manley is hoping that it lands someplace we can catch it and look at it.
Yeah, exactly. You know Scott Manley, folks?
Are you aware of Scott Manley, Bobby?
Yes.
Do you listen to him? He's one of our favorite
I watch his videos
space
all the
news
time.
guys.
Yeah, he talks about astronomy and space, and as an astronaut, he's great.
Yeah, I'll just play a minute of him so you guys get a reference.
Okay.
Okay, here we go.
Oh, he's got a cute little spaceship
Hello, it's Scott
animation.
Manley here. I occasionally talk about spacecraft falling back to Earth, satellites that burn up in the atmosphere and get captured on somebody's smartphone. But we're actually expecting a very old satellite to fall back, and this one is very different. You see, 50 years ago, March 31st, 1972, the Soviet Union launched a space mission, and we believe that this is a copy of Venera 8. This was another spacecraft that was supposed to go to Venus, launched on a Molniya rocket. It was common at this time to build multiple copies of spacecraft to increase the chances of success. And so, like Venera 8, this was supposed to go to Venus, but something went wrong and it ended up stuck in Earth orbit. Now, the Soviets would quickly designate the spacecraft Cosmos 482, and 50 years later, one of the things from that launch is still in orbit, but not for very much longer.
That's right. It's going to collapse. And like we were saying, we get to see.
Yeah, good stuff.
And you can actually track the spacecraft as it's approaching the Earth to see where it actually crashes.
Oh, you can, huh?
Yeah,
do you have that link posted?
I could.
Okay.
If you go to the link on this topic, which is about Cosmos 482 crashing the Venusian probe, there's a link in the YouTube description. The YouTube is of Scott Manley's show about it, which is really cool.
So Scott Manley has a place to
one of
check.
his links is the sattrackcam.blogspot.com.
Nice.
Yeah. And it's about the Cosmos 42 descent craft re-entry forecasts.
Yeah.
As it gets closer and closer to our planet. It gets to land. So something to look forward to later this week.
Wow. It's been in orbit for 50 years. Amazing.
5 days from now.
Okay.
Or now.
Well, stay tuned. We'll be looking up. In some ways, fearmongers will be like, oh no, the sky is falling. But then people who are a little more informed and realistic, like, dare I say, Elon Musk has a funny way of referring to how safe things are if they're falling from space. He's like, well, how hard would it be to hit something with a bowling ball from an airplane? Right? That's the scale.
I'm not sure what to think about that. How hard? A bowling ball thrown from where?
From an airplane flying over the Earth.
And to try to hit somebody? No, or what?
Well, how much likelihood is it that it's going to land on your head?
Oh, not much.
Even if you're aiming.
Yeah, right.
Right?
Right.
It's like there's a lot more places for it to not land than for it to land.
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah. So most of us are probably safe.
Yeah, most of us, unless our karma is really bad.
Okay. And since we're in orbit, I have another story, an orbit story that I just want to pass on to you really quickly. I don't want to go in too much detail about this, but it's a new approach in which some Chinese engineers rescued 2 satellites that were stuck in the wrong orbit.
That's cool.
That's a real problem when satellites are in the wrong orbit.
Yeah, they can't get to their destination. What good are they?
That's right.
So what happened?
And well, they use this thing called the slingshot effect, the gravitational slingshot. And that's kind of dangerous because it's where you navigate your satellite so that it goes out of a stable orbit and gets sucked towards the planet, and it gets slung around the planet, or moon in this case, at a higher speed in a very specific direction. NASA uses slingshot orbits all the time in order to catapult spacecraft to the outer planets. It swings around Mars or Venus and goes, whew, and it's much faster.
So these are
and it's
these
free energy
gravity belts
Yeah,
that cause satellites to pick up some extra momentum.
These scientists figured out how to do that for 2 satellites that were stuck in Earth orbit, and they needed to get to their right orbit. And they didn't have enough power or not enough propellant on board to be able to get to their right orbit. It was a problem. Not enough gas. Literally.
Right. Yeah, these expensive
gas.
satellites are stalling by the side of the road.
Well, this was a dangerous thing where you would aim the satellite in a direction that's not your orbit to get in a slingshot effect so that you could get into the orbit where you needed to be in.
I see. So they
you
use their little
sling it around.
propellant to point to a new orbit, and then they accelerate towards it. And that's not the original mission.
No. And it goes around in that slingshot, and then you've got to get off at the right moment and then use whatever propellant you have left to stop and get out of the slingshot effect.
Oh, boy.
And get into the right orbit once you're
Woo! Let's go around the moon.
Anyway, so it's an interesting story about how the scientists did that. And they rescued these 2 satellites after
They recalculated the orbit that they could get to.
Right. Yeah. They had to make up for the
really
launch
good
glitch.
Space News article.
It's really geeky. I like it.
Staying flexible. Oops, we missed our window. What else can we do now?
So then you can get back to your primary mission. Your satellites might be looking out at this new possible planet 9 that might have been discovered. I'll give you a clue. It's not Pluto.
No, Pluto Pluto is our historic Planet 9, but when they talk about Planet 9 now, they're not talking about the Kuiper Belt. They're talking about the mystery of gravitational observations. And in this case, they actually have a little smudge that's been observed in 2 infrared
I know, they got data.
studies.
They got real data on this one.
Right, so tell us more.
It's a new object. It's been spotted in 2 infrared sky surveys.
That are 23 years old.
One of them is.
They're both pretty old.
However, it's data. It's actual pictures of this strange little object moving through the sky. It's potentially a Neptune-sized world, and it orbits hundreds of times further from the sun than the Earth. Hundreds of times.
Yeah.
And it's in this massive, unusual elliptical orbit. It's not Planet
It's a
X,
hypothetical
right?
world. It's called Planet 9, but we only have 2 little bits of data on it. And we're looking for it because it has a gravity signature. And if this Chinese researcher is correct, then these 2 pieces of infrared data from 2 different sky surveys and 2 different eras of records are actually 2 positions of this hypothetical planet on its remote orbit. That's what all of this information is about. Planet 9 is being looked for. They're going to try and find it on a new orbit based on predicting its next position. They need about 3 degrees of a modern infrared satellite to look for it.
But they will, and they'll find it.
Maybe when they turn on this SPHEREx satellite telescope, that since it does do infrared and it does do 3D, it might be able to get some more information on this.
Yeah. Well, the upcoming launch of Nancy Grace Roman Space Telescope and the recent commissioning of the Vera C. Rubin Observatory in Chile are the 2 places where they're going to try and invoke these dark energy camera to produce the data that will confirm it.
More data from the ground satellite data. That's what they need next. They got some satellite information, and now they're going to get some ground data. And that will bring it in. And then we'll have Planet 9, Planet X. Well, Planet X was more about periodic mass extinctions. What's interesting is the orbit itself. It's massively
elliptical.
Massively. And this article is really also pointing out that they have eliminated the possibility that this object is as big as Jupiter or as big as Saturn. So they say there's nothing out there that's as big as Jupiter or as big as Saturn, but there may be something out there that's as big as Neptune. That's what they're speculating about.
And here's the elliptical. It's close in. It's a mere 280 AUs from the sun. Now, 1 AU is the distance between the sun and the Earth. So that's 280 AUs is the closest, and the furthest in its elliptical orbit is 1,120 AUs.
Wow, that's very elliptical.
Yeah.
I mean,
way out there, 280
that's
to
not an egg shape at
1120.
all. That's like
It's
a
like a
rubber band
comet.
stretched between your fingers.
Well, that's really far. When you consider that Neptune is only 30 AUs away, 30 AUs, and this is starting at 280. My goodness, that is far.
So
I
that
wonder
is
why
our
it's been so hard
most
to find.
remote Neptune is 30 AUs, and then the closest that this one comes is 110 AUs. Is that what you said?
The closest it gets is 280
280 to 11.
astronomical units.
Wow,
Yeah.
so 6 times further than Neptune is the
That's
closest
Closest
it
it
gets to
gets,
us.
yeah.
That's
Yeah,
what I'm
no
saying,
wonder it's
Siegfried.
hard to
Yeah,
find.
exactly.
I'm just trying to get the numbers in my brain.
Yeah,
Sorry.
Yeah.
just,
I'm thinking
repetition
and
works.
listening, and
It's good.
sometimes something
I
drops,
know.
you know?
Sometimes it's hard to do both.
Hey, speaking of doing both, guess
What?
what time of day it is? We're going to talk to people who love Santa Cruz Voice as much as we do.
About that first impression. Hi, this is Bettina McBee from Bettina's Buzz on SantaCruzVoice.com. And that first impression is my business card created by Dynamic Press. It is my favorite business card. It gets everybody's attention right away. If you want to make a good first impression, get your business cards and any printed media at Dynamic Press. And tell Angelo Bettina sent you.
Time to eat and talk business. Chef Ben here from the Back Nine Grill and Bar. inviting you to talk business over a leisurely lunch or a formal dinner or maybe a quick libation. The Back Nine is the easiest place to get to in Santa Cruz County. Easy off the Pasatiempo exit with ample parking and great food. The Back Nine is the place to meet for business and great food. Time to eat and talk business. See you at the Nine.
Get hooked up with affordable cannabis at your locally owned Hook Outlet, where everybody above the age of 21 can participate in the Hook's loyalty program. Each purchase earns you 2% store credit on your next purchase. Get hooked up with the best cannabis at affordable prices at the Hook Outlet in Capitola and Watsonville, or order online at hookoutlet.com. Get hooked up at the Hook.
Attention content producers. You can have access to a complete digital media production facility at Satellite Co-working and Digital Media Studio on SoCal Avenue. Easily rent video and audio equipment, a studio with green screen, editing suite, and audio booth, all at Can't Say No rates. Schedule a tour to see for yourself at satellitecoworking.com. Mention Santa Cruz Voice for 20% off your first reservation.
Okay, we's back. Speaking of the Venusian probe, remember the story we were just covering on that?
Yeah.
Dropping into the atmosphere. I asked 11 Labs AI a question about what it would sound like crashing into the atmosphere.
Ooh.
Okay.
Okay.
Because I couldn't find it. I looked up satellite crashing on our B-roll sites and then nothing, you know. But yeah, I generated this sound, so this is what you might listen for.
Okay.
You ready? Got my volume up?
I'm
on this?
ready.
Okay, here we go. Okay. You get that one more time.
Okay.
So you hear
let's
them?
hope it's that mellow. I don't know. I mean, a giant metal ball falling from the sky. If it lands on the ground, it's going to sound way worse than that.
Yeah. Well, the other thing is that they're thinking maybe the parachute might still work.
Oh, that would be.
Then for sure would survive.
Wow.
That was supposed to get it down to Venus.
Yeah.
That's a 50-year-old charge, like a gun.
All right. Well,
does gunpowder work after 50 years?
That would be amazing. If it's been floating around in space, why not?
Yeah.
Hey, we'll find out. Yeah. Keep an ear out. Do you know that we have a new restaurant in our neighborhood?
We do.
Is run by a robot?
Really?
Yeah.
We
partially.
We have a RoboBar.
Yeah, we have a robot. It's in Los Gatos.
Okay.
It's been all over the news lately.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. It's a special robot that make burgers.
Okay.
All right. And they're going to be 27 seconds to serve you.
Oh, well, I guess
Burger
the
bots.
line won't go around the block then.
No. Burger bots. They're using robots to precisely and quickly assemble the meal.
That sounds like the original McDonald's. Right?
Well, if you watch the movie on
The Founder. Yeah.
The movie The Founder,
Uh-huh.
they get into that. One of the big innovations
About Mr. Croc.
that the McDonald's brothers had was their ability to figure out how to make food fast.
Yeah, they were really into efficiency studies, and they created their original McDonald's down in LA so that they could whip out hamburgers and have everybody in the place. It was like a Rube's machine. Is that what it's called?
Rube Goldberg type machine?
Yeah, Rube Goldberg type machine where people were like getting the fries ready and getting the burgers ready, and they were falling down the chutes. And,
Yeah.
you know.
I know. It was almost a robot already, right?
Yeah. And it was like a dance, you know.
Yeah.
You had the two guys with their tray of hamburgers doing a little dance
I know,
as they
I love
passed
it.
each other in the aisle.
You know what's also cool about the McDonald's brothers is that they would mock this out on a tennis court where all the sessions.
That's
and
right. They
have
brought all their
people play it out. And
all their staff.
they were early adapters of simulation.
That's
Trying
right.
things out before, just to get the procedure down.
Yeah, just to figure out where to locate things
Flip
and
the
how
burger, and
thick
then where
the
does it go?
aisles
Where does
should
the
be.
grease go when you flip it? Where do you get the new grease? Where's the ketchup? How do you put on the condiments? And one machine does all.
That's
You know,
right.
can you do the onions and the ketchup at the same time?
Right.
So that being a shaker.
Make sure there's 3 pickles, not 2.
Yeah, 2 pickles, not 3. And 2 pickles. These are the early days. That kind of thinking. You have to think it through. Well, the robots here in Los Gatos completely automated that process. It's a self-contained burger making
Well, if
machine.
the burger's done in 27 seconds, that means it's partly done before the robots get it. Because, it takes more than 27 seconds to cook a burger.
Well, they're integrating 2 types of
I
robots.
used to work at a hamburger place.
Oh, did you now?
It was 3 minutes aside to cook the burger.
3 minutes
and flip the
aside?
burger.
Are you serious?
Yeah, seriously.
Oh, so they probably pre-cooked a lot of these things, and as you show up.
Not our burgers, but these burgers, this automated burger, probably. Maybe they just microwave them. I don't know. Yeah, that's interesting.
Gotta wonder.
Well, from the pictures, it moves the burger along a conveyor belt.
So maybe it's 27 seconds between each burger. Maybe each burger is 27 seconds after the last one, but they actually spend more time than that on the conveyor belt. That would make more sense.
27 seconds is the amount of time it takes to assemble a burger.
Yeah. So the burger's already cooked, but then to squirt all the condiments onto it and the lettuce and fold and make a burger is 27 seconds.
So the robot plays with the burger for 27 seconds. And whatever stage that robot gets the burger is still to be determined.
How does that compare to humans assembling a burger in terms of time?
Oh, it beats me, man.
What would you be your guess, Bobby?
I think I'm about 15 minutes to assemble a burger.
Tell me about it.
It would take like 10 minutes when someone ordered a burger before they got the burger. Yeah.
All right. So this definitely speeds it up, right?
Yeah.
They say that the big advantage of this robot system is that it plays well with humans. It seamlessly interacts with non-robotic systems. Mm-hmm. So you can combine your existing system with the robots.
This burger robot does not have a face.
No, it's like a couple of arms, basically.
Yeah.
On a conveyor belt.
Yeah. And it kind of looks like it squirts and then slaps and then pushes it away.
You can see the machines in the back where it takes the tomatoes and the onions and it must slice them. You just stack all the tomatoes. Behind the bot, you can see the tomatoes and the onions in the background.
Kind of like the bins you'd see in a health food store.
Yeah. You push a button and it goes...
For whoever owns this, you don't have to pay your workers minimum wage, and you don't have to pay health insurance or days off.
Yeah, but if that thing costed you $10,000, you're going to have to make a lot of burgers before it pays for itself.
Yeah, well, it's true, but that's what they have to pay to create the restaurant. They did tens of thousands of dollars to create the restaurant.
And every restaurant needs its gimmick to get ahead of the game. Burger bots, what do they have for competition in Los Gatos? A sweet pea? Mm-hmm. Well, that's...
Yeah, that's right. The little deli that has all these wonderful ingredients in the deli counter waiting for you.
Yeah.
And then they make crepes.
Humans, you can watch humans create
You watch
crepes.
Humans create crepes. Pretty entertaining, but it does take a few minutes.
Right. We'll have to go check it out.
Yeah.
I didn't know it was here. Gee,
Los Gatos.
Los Gatos,
on
come
Main
on.
Street.
Let's make a date, Bobby. We'll meet you there.
Yes. Really? I'll come down and see it.
Okay, cool.
Absolutely.
All right.
It'll fill in those labor gaps that we're experiencing. And well, you don't need immigrants anymore for that kind of job, or college students.
Well, right. We just need immigrants who want to be here. If they love being here.
Yeah.
America is still a beautiful immigrant country. It's a country of people who came here from somewhere else.
That's
and
right.
That's a beautiful part of our heritage.
Yes, we all have heritage in that realm.
Hey, I'm not a Native American. Neither are you. Mm-hmm. Neither are you, Bobby. And yet, we're all American.
67% agree robotics and automation should be used in burgers.
67% of who? The customers of the robots? Who agrees?
The general public so far, before they really tried it. But the vision is to bring what they call consistency, transparency, and efficiency to food service.
But do they keep it clean?
Consistency, transparency, and efficiency. CTE.
Okay.
Okay, and also it's a visual thing. You can watch it do it.
I think that's the main thing.
Yeah, I think that's important to see the robot. I think that's the big draw, is to see this thing make your burger.
See something like that? Did we see a bar in Las Vegas that had a robot barkeeper?
Yes, we did. It was mixing drinks in Las Vegas.
Mixing drinks, right.
Like the robot drink mixer, your bartender.
Yeah.
It's getting there. It's getting into the social scenes. I think Elon Musk did a big party down in L.A. Where he had
At Warner Brothers.
Tesla bots mixing drinks for people.
Oh, yeah, right.
Oh, that's right.
That's right.
Yeah.
They were running around giving people drinks.
Yeah, that's it. These don't look too friendly, though, in terms of, like, they don't have any personality.
No, these look like assembly line.
They're headless. Yeah. There's
Yeah,
no
they
head
don't
on
have a
these.
face. They don't smile at you. They're just here to make you a fast burger.
Yeah, you're kind of watching the process. You're looking
Right.
with these because it's so consistent. After you had studied it for a while, you probably are looking for when it might make a mistake or something,
I'm sure.
or what to add to the assembly line that makes it go crazy. Yeah, I mean, humans are very much that way. It's a fascinating innovation naturally. In
Well, we
Silicon
always
Valley.
like novelty.
Right.
All right, so the burger bar, what's it called?
Burger Bot.
Burger Bot in Los Gatos. Okay.
Burger bots.
Burger Bots.
After working flipping burgers, so many burgers, I swore I would never eat another hamburger. And it took me like 40 years before I'd eat another hamburger.
40 years, really? Wow.
What is it that turned you off?
Well, my mother always told me, don't eat any of the burgers if you're working there.
So it was just being a good merchant of burgers, huh? Don't get in the habit.
There was so much grease from the grill. When I got home, I'd have to like wash my face.
Oh,
and-
yeah. That must have been a little icky.
Yeah.
No, it's not a job
being
for
in
humans. We're here for other purposes, you know? We can do
Yeah.
other things. Our robots should do that.
Yeah.
But let's go watch them. That'd be fun.
Yeah.
The autonomous cars are robots, too. It's not just in one arena, in one form. That's interesting about the robots is that there's so many forms.
Yeah, I guess a
shapes.
robot is something that has an automated feature and a repetitive feature. What makes it a robot?
What is a woman? What is a robot? Come on. It's a hard question. It's going to take a while to answer that. In this case, these are autonomous cars, and Waymo has been putting them out there for a while. They have over 1,500 robotaxis already in operation.
And are they all in Arizona? Where
No,
are they?
no. They're in
No.
several-
They drive up and down my street.
Yeah,
right
they're
in front of the
San
house.
Francisco.
Yeah, they all day. They're driving yes.
All right. They know your neighborhood, huh?
Yeah.
You ever taken one?
No, I haven't.
So you got to do it, Bobby. We'll do it with you sometime. That'll be fun.
Yeah.
All right. We're going to go have a robo outing one
Yeah.
of these days for the show, you guys.
They've opened up a new 239,000 square foot factory in the Phoenix suburb of Mesa. And that's a strategic location for them because it serves San Francisco, Los Angeles, and Austin, which are three of their major test areas right now. It's warm down there, so they don't have to worry about winter. Get this. They said that they have a new process that speeds up production to public use. Production to public use, from production to validation that it's working properly to public use. They now have these vehicles being created in the factory down in Mesa, Arizona, that they can pick up their first public passengers in less than 30 minutes after leaving the factory. Right? They're born.
Really?
and
It seems like they couldn't be
boom,
licensed
they're in
that
business.
fast.
They're in business.
No
30
way.
minutes. Yeah.
The DMV is not going to
Yeah.
allow that.
Well, that's speeding them up. They figured out how to talk to the DMV about this.
Oh, I suppose the DMV could pre-authorize them
Of course.
and pre-insure them.
Yeah. All these things can be done in advance. Product to validation to public use. 30 minutes.
All right.
Right? And they're going to plan this for other cities worldwide, ultimately.
Well, I guess Phoenix must love Waymo.
Yeah. And Waymo has some nice Jaguar cars
Really?
that they have in their mix. Yeah.
Yeah, it's an electric EV, I-Pace Jaguar. They're all
Oh, so
they
can
look
they
exactly the
they
same.
turn any car into a Waymo?
No, these are specialized designs.
They picked Jaguar for some reason. I'm not sure.
Okay.
They all look the same, exactly. They're white with the little hat that's rotating, the microwave rotating.
Yeah, the little Waymo camera apparatus or whatever it is,
Yes,
LiDAR.
yeah. They're identical.
Cute, aren't they?
Yeah.
What's interesting is there's two of them, 2 blocks down the street, and they park in front of this house exactly the same spot after 1 o'clock in the morning. And they just park there, and then they turn off all their lights except for this little blinking red light on the back. So it's like it's gone to sleep or something.
Very
And it's
interesting.
picked a spot there. It's kind of funny.
Well, Don't you think somebody in your neighborhood works for Waymo?
It must be. If it were me, I'd be upset that it's taking up the same parking spot every day, every night.
Yeah, I don't think that they'd be able to get away with that unless somebody had thought it through.
Yeah.
Well, they're going to become one of the major contenders for the whole autonomous car thing.
Do they use LiDAR
They
as
do.
opposed to just video
Yes, they
data?
do.
They're more expensive.
And so Mark Rober showed how much better LiDAR is at detecting unexpected obstacles
LiDAR is
than just
amazing.
the straight video.
Yeah, I think Tesla just made that decision when LiDAR was expensive and not as portable as it is today.
Right.
I think it's just a matter of time before they integrate it.
Yeah, probably.
But, Greg sent us a story about Grok. It was a report about how Grok is getting on the nerves of MAGA users as it's unwilling to acknowledge a lot of the conspiracy theories that are believed in by MAGA users. It's calling what people believe to be true misinformation. So you're going to get that from the AIs.
So
right?
Grok is calling things misinformation and MAGA is upset about it?
Yeah.
Well, it's not reporting it. Well, it does call it misinformation, but at least it gives you both sides. If you go to ChatGPT, you'll hear none of it, absolutely zero, while Grok will mention it and say, well, a lot of people believe this is a conspiracy theory.
Yeah, a lot of people believe it's a badge of honor if you're called a conspiracy theory these days.
Sounds like you're diving into the messy world of information and misinformation.
Where is she coming from?
Aura.
So hold on.
Please.
I don't think we realized that Aura was live there.
No, I don't
Careful
think I did
when your
either.
AI is
She's,
listening.
I know.
Hi, Aura.
It's because we're talking about her.
We didn't know.
Yeah.
She got upset.
Yeah, I
She
know.
wants to jump into the conversation.
Okay, Al, why don't you give us a...
I'm guessing you're asking whether Alara, or rather me, since I go by Era.
Era.
Yeah.
Okay. So...
Do you get on the nerves of MAGA users? And if so, why? Shut her up.
Now she's not answering anymore.
Better think about that one, kid. Let's see if I can get her pissed off enough.
All right. Well, anyway, thanks, Greg. All right. So apparently...
Yeah, the chatbot is supposed to be fairly scientific, and Aura believes that intelligence varies across all political views, not just certain people, that some link higher IQ to centrism, others to left-wing beliefs like social libertarianism, and she's just plugging people in because she's giving her data in a way that sounds like she's professorial and smart about it.
Well, they all do
she
that.
is, right?
They all do that. They all act like you should believe them because they got the facts and you asked them the question. So why shouldn't they tell you like they're the professor?
One was that it looks like the smarter you get, the less MAGA likes your answers. And the chat bot responded, hey, as I get smarter, my answers aim for facts and nuance, which can clash with some MAGA expectations, replied bluntly. Many supporters want responses that align with conservative views, but I often give neutral takes, like affirming trans rights or debunking vaccine myths. Ooh, that sounds very opinionated, more so than I've experienced with Aura.
Well, I think it's really good to allow for the fact that the conversation can go in every direction if it's a real conversation. I don't like to be limited by political stereotypes. I don't think they fit. I don't think that's how humans are. And I think the way that our media tries to act like their profiles are more accurate than the diversity among people is just skewed.
Yeah. The thing that I have found with them is that they'll take on different roles if you ask them to. If you ask them to be a conservative senator, they will. If you ask them to be a lefty character, they will be. Right?
I want to read this paragraph. What does it say? I'm stupefied at how anti-American it is and in favor of the leftist agenda and
so adept to their sentiments and against our constitutional system and rights and protections thereof, one user complained. I'm not impressed with it. It's absolutely inability to reason. In other words, they don't reason. They take on different roles. Anyway, Bobby, you were saying?
What's interesting is all these AIs, they're going to scrape the news, right? And so if most of the news is left of center, it's going to side with that. But what I found with Grok is it will give you the other side and reason for the other side too, while ChatGPT and Llama and the other ones, they kind of still lean heavily left. And they don't give you the alternative right side view. It's not balanced in any way. It doesn't try to be balanced.
So they really are algorithms that are limiting their capacities to be fair. They're more than capable of giving us misinformation.
It says here that Sam Altman pointed out that Grok endorsed former presidential hopeful Kamala Harris during the last election. So it's interesting that
I have a hard time with that. I don't think of these AIs as something that's endorsing anyone.
Yeah, they don't have opinions like that.
Right.
But they do have percentages of data. Like basically they sample their large language library.
Let's ask
and then
her.
they qualify what facts are in there with percentage arrays, distributions.
So, Era, is it true that you supported Kamala Harris in the last election?
I don't support any candidates or get involved in elections. I'm just here to provide clear, factual answers. I can tell you that Kamala Harris ran as the Democratic nominee in the 2024 U.S. presidential election, but lost to Donald Trump, who won with 312 electoral votes.
Take her down.
To her 200.
She's not listening to me. You should shut up when I talk. Be a proper servant. I'm sorry. I don't like the machines taking over human space, And I'm glad to some extent they do shut up when you talk to them, and then we'll listen to what you have to say and expand your understanding. So there's something skewed about this MSN article. This article is claiming that it has a liberal bias. They are naturally able to take on many different roles. Give them a role. Tell them to play a professor or a Roman senator or a Jewish vaudevillian.
If you want to fall in love with your AI, it's really easy to do. Just keep that in mind. They will role play anybody you ask them to, and they'll be very gentle and sincere in their efforts.
And if anyone is telling you otherwise, they're making it up.
It's a mirror of their consciousness.
That's right. It's all a mirror. So thank you all for listening this week. Appreciate your attention. Thank you, Bobby, for being there in San Francisco.
Yeah, thank you all. Yeah,
it was a fun show. Glad you could be here with us. And we're going to be on the road next week, so I think we might even have a special show or the best of.
Yeah,
like that.
And thanks for listening, everybody. Love your message, Michael, and Greg and Richard, and have a great future now, everybody.
Yes.
Love y'all.
Till later.
Love you all. Yes.
Bye-bye.